I guess it's hacks. Like they look for these hacks,
yes,
right?
Little sprinkles. Like, can I add an extra recovery?
Which happens if you get, it does. I mean, it happens. You know, people will, usually you're going to feel like shit 4 weeks out from a meet, but that's kind of normal.
Yes, there's a normal like shit and there's I can't keep doing this like
shit. And that's a weird balance to kind of figure out. Say you're training for a meet and you get behind the 8 ball. You're 6 weeks out. You got to figure something out. You're going to deload how you can deload and all you're going to do. But then that would be the time that I would say, what have you tried in the off season that you've had success with? Steam, sauna, contrast, whatever the fuck you're going to do. Sure. Did anything make you feel better in any way? Sure. Because if it did, that would be the time to be able to throw it in when you're behind the 8 ball, which you don't want to be.
So there's a slightly more boring conversation and a slightly more interesting conversation about that. The slightly more boring one is that, to quote my colleague and friend James Hoffman, you don't recover by doing more stuff. You recover by doing less. Because recovery is your body healing itself. And if you ask it to do more, it's just more to heal from. So people say, I'm walking on the treadmill to recover. Like, interesting. Let's get someone who's been in like a war prisoner and asked to march 10 miles and be like, you feel really beat up after that? Like, yeah. Do you want to walk some more to walk it off? Be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh, sorry. Do you want to lift these weights? It'll help. No. Rest. There's nothing that beats rest. That doesn't mean sitting down into a couch and, is weed legal in Ohio?
Yeah, kind of. Medical. So
in Michigan, it's all legal, baby.
Yeah.
Come on up. So, it doesn't mean you have to smoke 8 blunts and disappear into the couch, but doing less is generally better than doing more. So anytime someone says, should I add XYZ for recovery? Automatically the answer is a giant skeptical eye of like, ooh, because that sounds weird, right? It's almost like being like, this is a kind of weird thing, but like, let's say, your wife tells you like, hey honey, we've been going on like a few too many trips. Can we just spend time at home? And you're like, no, for sure. Where do you want to go that's home like? Be like, I just told you no more fucking trips.
Yeah.
It's the same idea of the first thing you want to do is make sure to extract anything out of your program that's unnecessary. And that's a huge boost to recovery right away. Second thing is the best kind of recovery is in between ultra hard sessions for a specific muscle or movement to put technique-only sessions that run blood through the muscle, can actually help with a little bit of healing, bring the fatigue down, but bring your technique up. Training for technique of the lift doesn't have to mean grinding under heavy load. So for example, and this is a huge beauty of the Louis Simmons West Side method, I'll take a hard line here. The dynamic part of the dynamic effort method is dick to do with good powerlifting because nobody measures how fast you fucking move the bar. But what Louis did with that system was he had you go ultra fucking hard and heavy earlier in the week, and later in the week it was easier and less and light. You recovered from that to some extent. So then the next Monday, you can go even harder than you've ever done before. So what I would say is, if you're having a really hard time recovering from deadlifts, take your volume for deadlifts and cut it by 1/3. You're doing 4 sets typically. Now you're doing 3 or 2 sets or something. You do 6 sets, now you do 4. Take 3 sets at 50% of your deadlift 1RM and do 3 sets of triples a couple days later just for technique. You're going to run blood through all those muscles. Your technique is going to improve and your work capacity is actually going to go up. All the beautiful things happen. But that's not from treadmill walking. That's from specific lifting for the task at hand. Weightlifters, a ton of their work is submaximal. Like, how often are they grinding shit? Not so often. A lot of times they're grinding, and sometimes they're just doing really fluid movements. You're like, what are you doing? Warming up? The whole session's warming up. That's what proper active recovery looks like, is a warm-up for your technical lifts that never ends up grinding anything or doing anything crazy. But it's specific. So if you have a few times in the week where you squat or bench or deadlift, but with really light loads for technique, that already checks that box of active recovery super fucking well. That's the boring stuff.
Yeah.
The slightly more nuanced stuff is there is a difference between recovery and adaptation. Mostly they're on the same road, but they can split. For example, if you take ibuprofen or any other anti-inflammatory, what it does is it allows you to very quickly shut down the inflammatory pathways that are a big part of recovery adaptation. Because it shuts them down, you're much more ready to perform sooner. You know that tightness feeling you get and pain? That all tends to go away if you take enough anti-inflammatories. And then you're ready that Tuesday to fucking go hard again. The problem is it also costs you adaptation on a muscular hypertrophy perspective. So if you take Advil all the time to train more as a bodybuilder, you're like, you know, kicking the horse in the dick as soon as you get the gift horse, that whole analogy fucked up. But in any case,
I get it.
Like you're doing the good stuff and you're taking the good stuff right out. So it would be really stupid. However, exactly to your point, week 4 of a 6-week peaking protocol, and you are so fucked up you can't make it to the gym. Sauna has some anti-inflammatory properties for some people. Massage, ibuprofen, definitely contrast and all that other stuff, ice, etc.
Yeah.
That can start to have those very temporary suppressive effects on inflammation that allow you to come in and hit it hard again, allow you to get out of that heavy weight again. Is it costing you future hypertrophy? Yes, but it's not a hypertrophy phase. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
It's a peaking phase, and it'll make you really good at that. The slight cautionary tale there is you only can debit card that thing enough until you get seriously hurt. Because if you're like, oh, I know my muscles are damaged, but when I do this contrast bath, I feel great the next day. Like, yes, but you know, that doesn't mean the muscle's super healed. That just means the inflammation that tells the rest of your body, hey, we got to heal stuff over here. It just kind of shut up. You're basically telling it, shut the fuck up. Stop tattletaling on the muscles. It's okay.
Yeah.
To get you another session on the way to a peaked meet, amazing. And that's when you start to dope that shit out when you need it. But if it's a regular thing you do all the time to suppress that messaging, you have to rethink your plan. Because if you're hiding carryover soreness through anti-inflammatory drugs, massage, sauna, heat, whatever, your plan is broken.
Yeah.
And you need a better plan.
Yeah.
But sometimes when it's not enough time to pull back a bit, so you actually answered this question yourself earlier when asking it, if your fatigue is accumulated too high, you just fucking do a deload and then you ramp back in.
Yeah.
But if you're 3 weeks out of a meet, yeah. So first thing, strip your program of anything that's unnecessary, which you should have already done, but it's worth repeating. Second thing is your program should have heavier and lighter days, which is good. Okay, assuming it has that. The third thing is try to get as much sleep as you can. I mean, really prioritize it, because a lot of people just don't think that. They don't say that. They say, hey man, what do I do this week? I'm really fucked up. I have a big week next week and then I get to shut it down for the meet. What do I need to do to get ready for this week? I'm really fucked up. And you're like, well, can you make some time for like 3 nights this week? You sleep 9 hours. Nobody ever says that.
Yeah, go to bed earlier.
Yeah, like I need to wake up early to go to the fucking sauna to sit there and be pissed that I'm fucking hot. Which I personally hate the fucking sauna, which is travesty for a Russian person to say because it's like a national pastime.
Yeah.
But the sauna is a classic example of there's like some cool biochemical shit that goes on. It's probably not noteworthy for any kind of like athletic outcome. But the sauna is this really great thing. It relaxes the living fuck out of you if you like it. And that's why people who swear by the sauna should continue to go to the sauna, because they get ultra fucking relaxed. In a relaxation, stress is cumulative from all angles: psychological stress, work stress, lifting stress. It all bubbles up in the same cauldron. And if you can drain that cauldron with just a super relaxing activity, you're fucking winning. So if that's watching Netflix, if that's watching your neighbors through the little peephole you drilled when they weren't around, you know those neighbors.
Oh yeah.
We all have those neighbors. If that's what it is for you, relaxing activities are great, a ton of sleep is great, and a ton of nutritious food is great. Those things outrank Advil, saunas, massage by an order of magnitude, like a factor of 10. They're just that much better. But they're fucking boring and nobody ever talks about them. So the last thing you want to have is like a person who sleeps 7 hours or 6 hours a night. And they're like, what do you think, boss? Should I fucking get some massages booked in this week? You'd be like, how many hours a night you sleeping? 6 or 7. Like, is that enough for you? Like, fuck no, I could sleep 12 hours if I could. Well, then instead of taking that massage, book that massage for 9 p.m., quote unquote book, never book it, go home, go to sleep. After 10 hours of sleep, you're going to wake up like fucking Superman, and that's it. Problem solved. But man, you know, like when you make YouTube videos about massages and saunas and ibuprofen, it gets a lot of clicks and views because there's that hack element.
Yes.
People are like, oh, I could really figure this out. I can catch the edge with a limited amount of work or almost none. If I know the territory well enough, I can get these big payouts. But the reality is, like, the heavy hitters are more sleep, more relaxation, less stressful events in your life, and more good food. But like, man, I make YouTube videos about the shit all the time. Anyone barely watches them as far as I can tell. I'm kidding, but like, it's just not sexy and it's not seen as a hack. So there's only so many times you can say that until you're labeled like an old head and nobody listens to you. Or people sometimes come around and there's some YouTube comments you get that are like, this is the best advice ever. And I've tried all the other shit. None of this worked. And when I finally started getting good sleep, it's great. It's great to see that kind of shit, but it's hard. It's hard to sell on TikTok. You know, I assume you're on TikTok. I assume you check your TikTok every day.
Yeah, all the time.
Yes. Whatever that is. They give you a phone, like find the TikTok app. You're like, I have no idea what I'm looking at.
One thing that with this in mind, that I was fortunate enough when Mel Siff was still around to spend multiple seminars with him and time with him. And this was a topic that came up a lot because I was still competing at the time. And, you know, where I was competing, how I was training, you're behind the 8 ball a lot.
Oh, yes.
You know, and on purpose. And so one of his big things in this regard was, you know, sparingly use it, only use it, you know, as you're getting close to the meet, but that you'll adapt to whatever modality that you're using, the same way that you would adapt to a training stimulus. Now, I don't know if this is bullshit or not, but if it was, you know, a contrast, let's say it was just steam, and normally I was contrasting steam, cold. It was always hot, cold. That whatever that protocol was, there was only so long I could use it for until my body would then say, oh, no, this isn't going to work the way that it worked to begin with. And that had to actually be phasic as well. So what my time in the off season was spent doing is trying to figure out what makes me feel best. This makes me feel best. Okay, don't do it again.
Put it in the pocket.
Pull it away. Yeah. And then that will be what I can use that 2 week for, like 2 week waves or however it was going to go. And then this is not so good, you know, and so it would play around. And then over a period of time, I'd find protocols that were, for me, wet sauna with cold shower was like the shit. It was like 3
what did it do for you as far as like, how did it make your joints feel and mind feel?
Well, like when you know, West Side, right? So max effort days, that day, the day after that, I felt like I got hit by a fucking truck.
Because you more or less did.
I mean, it was just getting whacked by a truck. And it got harder to recover from the closer you came to a meet because the weights are heavier, the movements become more specific in what you're doing for the max effort work. So it's a different type of thing. I could, if I did that day after, I felt way better on the max effort bench day, which was that Wednesday.
Yes.
So my back wasn't as fucking trash, the lower back was. So I was able to get into a little bit better position. And now, outside of when those phases were, and say that day was just 3s and 5s on good mornings, I didn't need that shit like that. So that's what it did, or, you know, it allowed me to get in better positions. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So the tightness, the soreness, all that's just part of it, right? So that was just it. The joint soreness, it's just part of it as well, but you still got to be able to get in the right fucking position.
Yes.
And when you can't because it's so tight or it's so locked
the
up,
inflammation
or it hurts so bad, but then you're just compromising it even worse from that. So it allowed it to open up, relax to some degree.
I can believe that your body would adapt to something like that. I mean, it sure as hell adapts to every other mechanism.
Yeah.
Like ibuprofen dosing. 200 milligrams after a few times is like, your body's like, what the fuck is this even? Then it's 400, then 600, then 1,000, et cetera. You don't want to come out of the gate and take 1,000 milligrams of ibuprofen if you're not used to it. So you can work your way up as needed. Luckily, if your training is intelligent and everything is aligned properly, I think the adaptation windows of those kinds of things from where they work well to where they don't do much is just long enough for you to use up all that shit you needed, and then it's your